In this video, I'm going to go in and show you how to create a rubric, assign the rubric to either an assignment or a discussion, and how to use the rubric to grade an assignment. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Course Tools, Course Admin. Okay, and I'm going to go down and say I want to create a new rubric. So I'm going to go into Rubrics. Okay, now when I go into Rubrics, this course already has a bunch of rubrics in it, but I just want you to realize that as you add rubrics to a course, you're going to notice that some of the rubrics have this lock after them. That means that rubric's already being used and it's already graded assignments, which means you cannot go in and edit that rubric. So if I go to the chevron, you're going to see it's only going to let me edit options, not edit the actual rubric. Okay, if there's nothing after the chevron, that means that it's been created, but it's not attached to anything in the course. Okay, and then you have some that have a chain link after them. That means they're attached to an assignment or a discussion, but have not graded anything yet. So you could go in and you have the option where you can still edit it and make changes to it. Okay, so that's what those symbols mean. Now, if you put rubrics in here and you don't want them, you can go to select the rubric and come up to the top here and hit the trash can. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to delete it? I'm going to hit delete, and that rubric is gone from my list. Okay, so when you're creating a new rubric from scratch, okay, you might already have a rubric that has all the text that you want to put into it. Another great tool to use is an AI tool that creates rubrics for you. I know that Lisa's going to talk about this in a separate video, but I went in and I actually went to Google Bard and I told it that I was looking for a holistic rubric for an infographic creation assignment. Okay, and this is what it came up with for my information. Okay, now, so I don't have to type this all out. I can go ahead and just use this. So I'm going to put this on half the screen here. All right, and I'm going to go over to my rubric over here, and I'm going to put this on half the screen. Okay, so this way I can actually go back and forth and play around with it a little bit. More of this one. And I can use this to just copy and paste from. So if I come over to this, the rubric area and hit new rubric, okay, and what I want to show you first before I start copying and pasting over into the new rubric, you can go in and title it, and I'm going to say that this is my infographic assignment rubric. I'm going to put a 2 at the end because I already have one in there. But after you go in and you give it a name, okay, you have a couple options here. You can make it holistic. And holistic, all it will do is it will just give you one row of a rubric and give you levels. It doesn't give you multiple things to check for an assignment. Okay, so holistic is a single row. The analytic is the one that you're looking at, where I can go in and add as many rows to the rubric as I want. Okay, scoring. Okay, if you're doing, let's say you're just going to give your students feedback using maybe the grading rubric that you're going to have for a final assignment or final projects or something like that, but you can set it at no score if you want to. So basically, you can just go in and tell them where they've met criterias and where they've lost points and stuff like that, or are missing information. Okay, now the points, you'll see that you have the points above for each level, and what that means is every point or every person that gets it in this area will gain 4 points for each one of these criterias. Okay, and the same thing, this will be 3 points, 2 points, and so on. Okay, now if you go in and you select custom points, you can actually have different points for every single box, every single piece of information that you're going to put in here in each one of the rows. Okay, I like being able to play around with this a little bit and add things and take away things. So, you know, it's up to you whether you want to add points or different points for each row, or keep them all the same if you just pick points and have them all equal at the top. Okay, now you can go in and you can, let's say your the data or the rubric that you're building is only 3 levels. You can go in and hit the trash can to remove one of the levels, and it will get rid of that particular column. Okay, you have criteria lines. Okay, so if I look back at that rubric that it generated for me, okay, I can see that this one here actually has the 4 different levels. So I would keep that at 4 at this point. And then the criteria for each line, I can see here it gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different rows of criteria. Okay, so if I go back to my rubric now, okay, and I believe it is 4, but I only have 3 in here right now. So I would go in and add 3 more criteria here. Okay, then what you can do is, because this is already typed out and I don't want to have to type everything out again, I can go in and select the text and copy it and paste it where I want it in here. Okay, so for each one of these boxes, you can either type into the box what you want or copy and paste. So if I come down here, this is going to be my first criteria, and I could just come over and paste it in. Okay, and you would just keep going until you got it all in there. Okay. When you're all done creating the whole rubric, you have your points and everything in there, all you have to do is hit the close at the bottom. Now, you also can look at this overall score. So if your, like, the highest amount of points is 16 or whatever, you could set what level, whatever this level is. So I can say that that's exemplary and put it in here. Okay. Basically, I'm grabbing the same titles that are across the top of my thing, and then put in, you know, what's the lowest point that they can get to achieve this. So I'm going to say, let's say it's 15, okay, and so on, and you can put your levels in here. This is kind of what's the overall score is going to show up. It's not really going to use that when it grades, so this isn't quite as important at the bottom, but at this point I just want to fill it in. Okay, now the other thing you want to check, in the top right hand side, you want to make sure that this shows as published. If it's in a draft mode, that means you won't be able to add it to an assignment or a discussion to use to grade with it. So just double check the top to make sure that it is actually published. Okay, so once you fill in all the blanks, you've got everything written in there or copied and pasted in there, you can go ahead and close it. Okay, and once it's closed, you'll see it as one of, oh, I must have forgot to, did I forget to put a title on it? Oh, that was a different one. Okay, doesn't matter because we're going to use a different one. Okay, so this is one that I created earlier, right here. Oh, there it is right there. So I'm going to go into this one and I'm going to edit this so you can see what it looks like when it's all filled in. And okay, now this one I set up custom points for, and it's basically the same type of rubric. So by doing custom points on every single row, I can have different points in here. So you can see here there was kind of a gap in the rubric that I got. So I could either put some definition in here and set it up as points, or just leave it blank and leave it as 0. And if I want this to be equal 5 points, I can do that. This to be 6 points. You can go in and make any changes that you want. You can add things to this and say needs work. So you can go in and edit these to do whatever you want, okay? And it takes what the highest points are for that particular item and it automatically gives that as the row total, okay? Now, sometimes people prefer to have the lower amount of points to the left and the higher amount of points to the right. You can reverse your levels here. So it will go lowest to highest. So it all depends on what you prefer to do as your grading and what you want your students to see when they do this. Okay, so I'm going to come down and I prefer to see the highest stuff on the left. So I'm going to reverse that back. Okay, so this one is actually equal to 100 points. Because I use a weighted grade book. Obviously, you can have it 16 points, you can have it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter, whatever number of points you want it to total at the bottom here. You just want to make sure that when you set up the assignment with the grade, whatever number of points that are here matches up with the assignment points. Okay. Also, if you start grading it and you realize, oh, you know, as I'm looking through the documents, really I'm looking for this before I look for this. And it makes it a little bit easier for the flow if I were to be able to move this up in my rubric. So I can go to the dots in front of a row. My mouse changes to the 4-prong arrow, and I can click and hold and drag it up. And see how that blue bar just appeared above? Now I can just move it up or down. Okay, so that's a real quick, easy way to move your rows around if you need to. Okay, and this pops up periodically. I'm not quite sure, but all right. So the rubric's done. I'm ready to use it. I'm going to add it to an assignment. Okay, and you can see down here, because this was 100 points, I went in and changed the levels here of, you know, where they would meet. That's your kind of your overall score. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and hit close. Okay, so the rubric's ready to use. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into so this is the one that I want to use, the one that's filled in. Okay, so I'm going to go into Course Tools. I'm going to go to Assignments. Okay, so at this point, I don't think I have it in here. No, I do not. So I haven't created the assignment yet. So I'm going to create a new assignment. You can edit one, whatever, you know, way you need to do it. And I'm going to call this Infographic Assignment. And I remember the number of points that's in the rubric is the number of points I want to use here. I am going to have it be in the grade book. Okay. And then obviously, just like any other assignment, you would put in your information of what you want them to do. You want to do a video, you can do insert stuff and do a video note and add it to that, or type out your directions or paste them in. Okay. Then over on the right hand side here, to get the rubric attached, see, it says right now there is no rubric. So I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to add a rubric, and I'm going to add an existing rubric. So you could have created one when you created the assignment. So I'm going to add an existing one. Okay, and the infographic one is the one that I want to use, this one here. This one was the fully filled in one. So I'm going to select that and then add the selected. Okay, so now it's noticing that there is an info, or there is a rubric attached to it, and it tells me right here. Okay, so I've got the assignment, I've got it in there, it's all set. Well, one thing I want to do is make it available to my students so they can see it. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, I am going to change this. I'm going to change the type of assignment to, I know that when Lisa uses this one, she sets it up as a text submission, so they just paste in their link to their actual rubric or their infographic design that they've created out on the web. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close this. Okay, so I'm going to go back home. Now, I haven't added this assignment to any of the modules, so I want to show you what the student sees ahead of time so that they know how they're going to be graded on that assignment. So I'm going to go into a student preview. So I clicked on my name, and I'm going to select this view as a NA student. And because I didn't add it to a module, I need to go to Course Tools and go to Assignments. And if I go down to that new info assignment, I can see I haven't submitted anything yet. And when I go into the assignment, okay, the rubric automatically shows up expanded. Okay, so I can actually see the rubric as soon as I go in. Now the students can collapse it, and then they can go ahead and paste in their URL and then submit this particular assignment. Okay, so when the students go into the assignment, they can see the rubric. Okay, so I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to get out of the student view. Okay, now to go in and actually grade using a rubric, okay, I'm going to use a different one than I'm going to use one that I've added to a discussion. Now, normally a lot of you are probably going to Quick Eval. You're going to find what needs to be graded, and you're going to grade from there. Because I'm not actually an instructor on this course, Quick Eval isn't going to show anything for me. Okay, so when I go into grades, I can see that for this Mod 4 discussion, 2 students have done some submissions. So I'm going to go into this first student. Okay, so I manually already went in and graded this. Now it looks like, oh shoot, I didn't add the rubric to this one, so let me go out and come back in. Okay, so in this one here, to grade using the rubric, I would come up here and you would go through the rubric and mark what levels they, did on each one of the rows or each one of the criterion of the rubric. So I like their responses, but basically they need to work on their grammar. So I'm going to mark that for each one of these. And go even further back. Now, as I move, like if we select things, you can see what they gain points or lose points for. So if I look at this and say, well, maybe, I want it to be less than 7.5, but I want it more than 2.5. I can come over here and I can change this. So I'm going to take it up to 5 instead, and then hit enter, and that will update that particular one. So you don't have to stay right within the rubrics and what numbers, or you can just manually come down here, select the number and type in, maybe I don't want to have the 0.5, so I could actually just type out 85 and have that in there for the final grade. Okay, so at this point I'm ready to go ahead and submit this, or publish it, I should say. And I think right now, okay, there we go. I have to publish it. Couldn't see the publish button. Okay, so now I'm going to go back out to the assessments for a minute, and I'm going to go into grades. Okay, so I've used the rubric to grade that one assignment. I am going to go back in. I'm going to do one more. So I'm going to go to this one here. And I manually had typed this in, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, and I'm going to use the rubric. Now, what I want to show you, okay, if I go in and I want to give them feedback, there is an option for each criteria to add feedback in here. Okay, so I'm going to go in. All right, and then I'm going to go and hit add feedback on that first one with the spelling and grammar. And I'm going to put in okay, so that's my feedback. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish this. Okay, I'm sure I got to get down the bottom here. Okay. Okay, so I published that using the rubric. Now, because I added feedback into a category here, I'm going to also make sure that there's some feedback into the overall feedback box so you can see the difference and see how it looks to students. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see what the students see. So I'm going to go back out and I'm going to go back to grades for a minute. And then this is the one where I put all the feedback in. So I'm going to go to the chevron next to the name, and I'm going to hit preview. Now this is a way for you to see exactly what the student sees when they go to grades. So I'm going to hit preview, and I'm going to maximize this screen so I can see this student here, what grades they have, what feedback they've been given. And I can see down here, this is the one that I just did. This is the one that I just graded and added feedback. So you can see with the overall feedback, it shows up immediately. They don't have to open up anything, okay? They can go in and they can view the rubric, and they can see where they've gained or lost points in here. Now, here's that feedback for that criteria. I'll tell you right now, students do not see this. So I actually recommend putting any feedback into the overall feedback box and not do it individually, because the students might not ever open the rubric, and they might not realize that there is individual feedback for different rows inside the rubric. But it's up to you. If you are going to put criterion feedback for each separate row, tell them that you're doing that. Let them know that they need to open that rubric and they need to look at the bottom of each one of these rows and see if there's any criterion feedback. Okay? Otherwise, if you just put it in that main overall feedback box, it just shows up and they don't even have to open the rubric if they don't want to see it. Okay? So that's how it looks to students. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close that. All right? So we've gone over how to create one, how to add it to an assignment or a discussion, and how to grade with it.